Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Shrith BK. In this video, we are going to study about Prandtl number and Reynolds number. Then we will go to some basic derivation of equations, mainly continuity equation, momentum equation, and energy equation. First of all, the definition of Prandtl number is the ratio of molecular diffusivity of momentum divided by molecular diffusivity of heat, which is equal to mu by alpha or mu Cp by K. So this mu Cp by K is the equation for Prandtl number. So in simple words, Prandtl number is the ratio of momentum thickness to the diffusivity of heat. We have studied boundary layers, mainly thermal boundary layers and momentum boundary layers. So this Prandtl number actually correlate the effect of both the relative thickness of velocity and thermal boundary layers, or it says which parameter is dominating in a certain phenomena. Now once again we will go to Prandtl number definition. This is the definition, and the momentum diffusivity is mu Cp by K. From this equation we are deriving this one by using this relation. And the significance of Prandtl number is as I told already, whichever the phenomena is dominating in a certain phenomenon, physical phenomena, okay, flow phenomena. So we can take three conditions. One is Prandtl number is equal to 1. That means the momentum thickness is equal to heat dissipation or thermal boundary layer thickness. That means which indicate that both the momentum and heat dissipate through the fluid at the same rate. So there is no dominating dominating effect of any certain parameter. So both the momentum diffusion, that means a variation of velocity, as well as variation of temperature has same effect or equal effect. Heat diffuse very quickly in liquid metal. We know that because the Prandtl number is very much less than 1, and very slow in oils because Prandtl number is very much bigger than 1. Consequently, the thermal boundary layer is much thicker for liquid metals and much thinner for oil related to velocity boundary layer. Now we'll go to laminar and turbulent flows. As I told earlier, laminar flow is encountered when highly viscous fluid such as oil flows in a small pipe or narrow passage, something like this. And you can say laminar and turbulent flow regime of a candle smoke. So in the beginning it will be ordered smoke. It is coming in a laminar flow, then there will be fluctuation. There's a somewhat in a transition region, and there will be a highly ordered smoke flow that's coming in turbulent flow. So laminar, smooth streamlines and highly ordered motion. Turbulent, velocity fluctuations and highly disordered motion. Transition, the flow fluctuations between laminar and turbulent flow. Most flows encountered in practice are turbulent. In a flow phenomena, whatever the velocity and other parameters, whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. It is decided by multiple factors including flow velocity, the surface characteristics, surface roughness, fluid properties, etc. So in that case, we need a single parameter which can directly predict a certain flow in a certain situation is laminar or turbulent. Such a parameter, or in other words called a dimensionless number, is called a Reynolds number. The transition from laminar to turbulent flow depends on the geometry, surface roughness, flow velocity, surface temperature, and type of fluid. So the flow regime depends mainly on the ratio of inertia force to viscous force. This ratio of inertia force to viscous force is called a Reynolds number. So we know that Reynolds number is a inertia force divided by viscous force. Inertia force can be written as rho v square L square divided by mu v L, where v is velocity, rho density, L length of flow, and mu is the viscosity of the fluid. So by mathematical manipulation, ultimately we'll get v L by nu, where this is nu the kinematic viscosity, mu is dynamic viscosity. So this will be the final equation for Reynolds number. You consider a flow in a over a flat plate, and you consider the region inside the boundary layer. If the Reynolds number is large, the initial force which are proportional to the fluid density and the square of the fluid velocity are large related to the viscous force, and thus the viscous force cannot prevent the random and rapid fluctuation of the fluid, the turbulent flow. That means if the Reynolds number is large, it give an indication that the flow is turbulent. And the same way, at small or moderate Reynolds number, the viscous force are large enough to suppress the fluctuation to keep the fluid in laminar. That means viscous force will be dominating in this case. So if the Reynolds number is smaller, it indicates that the probability will be high for becoming the flow is laminar. So this is the significance of Reynolds number. The value of Reynolds number determine whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. Along with that, one more term we need to remember. It is called critical Reynolds number, RECR. Usually Reynolds number will be represented by RE. The Reynolds number at which the flow become turbulent is called a critical Reynolds number. For example, a flow is occurring over a flat plate or a tube. After certain distance, as it move over the plate or the inside the tube, the Reynolds number will be keep on increasing because the characteristic length of flow is increasing. At certain point, Reynolds number will touch a value which represents the beginning of turbulency. So that particular value of Reynolds number which determine or which make a separation between laminar and turbulent, that Reynolds number is called critical Reynolds number. In every case, I told by knowing the value of Reynolds number we can decide the flow is laminar or turbulent. At the same time, the critical Reynolds number which determine whether the flow is coming as laminar or it is in turbulent varies with the geometry of the flowing surface. Like if the flow is over a flat plate, the critical Reynolds number will have a certain value. If the flow is inside a tube, then the critical Reynolds number will have a different value. If the flow is through a rectangular duct, then same way Reynolds number will have a critical Reynolds number will have a different value. So for each different shape, the critical Reynolds number will vary. So by knowing for particular shape of the flow what's the value of critical Reynolds number, we can decide whether the flow is laminar or turbulent. Any fluid flowing phenomena mathematically can be represented by three fundamental equations, three sets of fundamental equations. They are continuity equation, momentum equation, and energy equation. So in the coming few slides, we are going to derive these equations. First of all, we will start with the continuity equation. You consider a flow over a flat plate as shown in figure. So you know that there will be boundary layer formation. So inside this boundary layer, the viscous force will be dominating and it will be viscous flow, and outside the boundary layer we can assume that it is a inviscid because the viscosity is not much affecting while it is flowing outside the boundary layer. So our attention will be focused inside the boundary layer only. So before starting the derivation, our assumptions are the flow are steady, two-dimensional, the fluid is Newtonian with the constant fluid properties like density, viscosity, thermal conductivity, etc. So these are our assumptions. So consider a small fluid element inside this boundary layer, and I have shown it in a bigger way here. Okay, this is the fluid element. One more thing, as I told, since at the outside the velocity is or the fluid is flowing only in x direction, or the velocity variation only in x direction, in the flow direction, but inside the boundary layer, because of this viscous effect and this boundary layer formation, we know that velocity of flow is varying not only in x direction but also in y direction. That means if I say a certain velocity, say u, inside this boundary layer, then u is having two components, one is in x direction and other one is in y direction. So u can be represented as u is equal to x comma u is equal to u of x comma y. That means the x component of velocity itself is having fluctuation in x and y direction. Same way, the y component of velocity small v can have two components in x and y direction. So u is equal to u into xy, v is equal to v into xy. So whatever the velocity direction we are considering, whether it's only x direction or y direction, that velocity in that particular direction is influenced by both x and y directions. We know that by conservation of energy law or mass conservation law, in steady state the amount of mass within the control volume remains constant, and thus the conservation of mass can be expressed as the rate of mass flow into the control volume is equal to rate of mass flow out of the control volume. That means if this is the figure, so some mass flow rate is there and some mass flow rate is going out in x direction. In the same way, mass flow rate in y direction, mass flow rate out in y direction. So in a steady state, net mass flow in is equal to net mass flow out. Now we can consider the control volume again, and we can find the expression for mass flow rate in. If you know the density rho, and if you know the velocity of the flow in that flow direction, and if you know the cross section through which the flow occurring, then the mass flow rate is equal to rho into velocity into area of cross section, where that is, if this is the flow direction, then the area of cross section is this height into the direction which is perpendicular to the slide. So if x is the flow direction, then y height into z width will be the cross sectional area. So we are considering it as a two-dimensional. That's why the z direction distance we have taken as 1. So the net mass flow rate into the system will be rho u into dy. In the same way, the mass flow rate going out of the system will be rho into u plus dou u by dou x dx into dy. So we got mass flow rate in x direction, mass flow rate out in x direction. If you repeat the same thing in y direction and substituting all the values in these equations, so if we consider this in y direction, it will be rho into v into dou v by dou y dy into dx into 1. So substitute all the values here and here. So this is in and this is out. So it will be rho u dy into 1 plus rho v dx into 1 is equal to rho into u plus dou u by dou x dx into dy into 1 plus rho into v plus dou v by dou y into dy into dx into 1. On simplifying this equation and dividing this entire equation with dx dy into 1, finally we will get dou u by dou x plus dou v by dou y is equal to 0. This is the continuity equation in two-dimensional. If we want to find the continuity equation in three-dimensional, same procedure we can repeat for z direction also. Ultimately, the equation will be dou u by dou x plus dou v by dou y plus dou w by dou z is equal to 0. That will be the continuity equation in three-dimensional. Next, we are going to derive momentum equation for fluid or Navier-Stokes equation. For that, consider a fluid element which we have similar to which we have considered just now, and if you apply Newton's second law of motion for that control volume, so as per the Newton's second law, mass into acceleration in a specific direction is equal to net force acting in that direction. So in net force there will be body force and there will be surface force. That's so the delta m is the mass of control volume, ax is the acceleration of this control volume in x direction, then f surface x is the surface force in x direction, and f body x is the body force in x direction. So first we will derive an equation for this LHS term. As we know, mass flow rate can be expressed in terms of density into volume, where volume of the fluid control volume is dx into dy into 1. So next we need to derive an expression for acceleration. Usually acceleration is the change in velocity with respect to time. So velocity in x direction can be written as u is equal to u is function of x and y. So you cannot simply write change in velocity dou u by dou x, because it is having component in x and y direction. So how we can write is du is equal to variation of velocity with respect to x direction plus variation of velocity with respect to y direction, dou u by dou x dx plus dou u by dou y dy. If you know the change in velocity, the acceleration will be ax is equal to du by dt. That means dou u by dou x into dx by dt plus dou u by dou y into dy by dt, which is equal to, since dx by dt change in distance divided by time interval, distance by time is the velocity in that direction. So this term will become u into dou u by dou x. Similar way, dou y by dt will be v, and the remaining term is dou u by dou y. So ultimately it will be u into dou u by dou x plus v into dou u by dou y. So we got expression for delta m and ax. Now we have to find expression for net force. So in case of force, we have surface force and body force. The net surface force will be the contribution from the friction force or the shear force tau and pressure force, which make the flow of fluid. So pressure force and shear force. So you can see the direction, both are in x direction. Here the shear force or the shear stress is tau at the bottom. Top it is tau plus dou y into dy. So if you find the net shear force, it will be dou tau by dou y into dy, and the net force due to that shear force will be dou tau dou y dy into area. Area is this area. This area will be x dx into perpendicular distance is z direction distance is 1. So dou tau dou y dy into dx into 1. And the same way, the pressure force is the dou p by dou x dx, the net change in pressure, into area of acting cross sectional area. This is a dy into 1. So on simplification, we can write dou tau dou y minus dou p dou x into dx dy into 1, or substituting the expression for dou t by dou y from tau is equal to mu into dou u by dou y, it will be mu into dou square u by dou y square. So substitute here mu into dou square u by dou y square minus dou p by dou x into dx dy into 1. So this is the surface force equation. And you can add body force also. The gravitational force or the self weight of the body is coming in body force. So the net, if you substitute the value of surface force, and the time being we can neglect the body force, and then it will be only surface force. So mass into acceleration is equal to surface force. The expression for mass into acceleration is this one. Expression force for surface force is this one. So this is called momentum equation in two-dimensional. In x direction. In the same way, if you repeat it for y direction, you can derive momentum equation in y direction. So if you consider rho as constant, you can bring the rho this side. So it will be mu by rho. So it will be nu then here it will be 1 by rho into dou p by dou x etc. plus body force. So that form of equation is called Navier-Stokes equation. So next we are going to derive the energy equation. The energy law states that for any process, energy in minus energy out will be equal to the energy stored in the system. And we assumed in our case that the flow is steady, it's a steady flow process. Then the net energy stored in the system will be 0 or remaining constant. That means delta E will be 0, energy will be constant in the form of stored energy. That means this equation will become energy in minus energy out is equal to 0. Now in case of the control volume flow, whichever we have considered earlier, the energy in can be either in form of heat, net energy transfer will be in case of form of heat, or the net energy will be in form of work, or net energy will be in form of mass. So contribution from heat, work and mass will be equal to 0. Now the total energy of the flowing fluid stream per unit mass is E stream is equal to H plus Ke plus Pe, where H is the enthalpy, is the sum of internal energy of the flow energy, P is the potential energy which is related to the height G into Z, and K is related to kinetic energy V square by 2. The kinetic and potential energy are neglected, and also we assume that density rho and specific heat Cp, viscosity mu and thermal conductivity K of the fluid are constant. Then the energy of the fluid per unit mass can be expressed as E stream is equal to H is equal to Cpt. So this is for unit mass. So we derived expression for this term. So whatever remaining is work and heat, and we already told it's steady state. So in steady state net work is equal to So here this is for x direction, this is for y direction. Adding it together and applying the current equation dou u by dou x plus dou v by dou y is equal to 0. The other terms will get cancelled. Only u into dou t by dou x plus v into dou t by dou y into dx dy. This term will be retained. Now we have this the equation for mass flow, energy from fluid flow, and this is the equation for energy, net energy flow in due to heat flow. So adding it or substituting this value and this expression in equation number 630, finally we'll get equation something like this, and this energy is called energy equation for convection flow. So it states that the net energy convected by the fluid out of the controlled volume is equal to the net energy transferred into the controlled volume by the heat conduction. So this is the